In Hal Leonard, soon after Danny Boy introduced the F sharp, we moved on to Shenandoah and other songs that used the F sharp in the key signature of G. Red River Valley is our next one that we'll take a look at. I've been talking in several of these songs how they're very nearly pentatonic songs, if not entirely so. And that may seem a little bit silly to you, that we'd be talking about a scale and then the violations of that scale. And if it's not exactly pentatonic, why even mention it? But the fact is that the way our voices work out melodies, we really focus on chord tones. And even without accompaniment, when we improvise a melody, our voices do tend to go through chord progressions. And as we work through patterns that outline those chords, we do focus just naturally on the pentatonic scale. Here's the Ionian scale, the major scale in G, with the whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half with the F sharp note. While I tell you often that this is based upon the physics of the waveform, when we hear a G note fundamental, our ears are going to naturally hear the overtones of that. We hear one G and another G an octave higher. Part of that same note is a D note, the fifth. And if you hear a note loud enough and it's not a pure sine wave, you will hear these overtones of more Gs, a D, another G, another D, a B note, which gives you the G chord. As we progress through the overtones, we run into 9s and 6s as well. The 4s and 7s are a little fuzzy in overtones. They're somewhat between flat 7 and a raised 7, somewhere between a 4 and a sharp 4. So those two notes aren't purely specified by the physics, at least in terms of the instruments that we have. So they're both a little bit ambiguous, and one of the reasons is they are jammed in so close to roots and 3s, which were early overtones and much stronger. Therefore, they're not as natural notes, so they fall out of our natural scales. So we get our G major, but we focus on the notes of the pentatonic scale. First, the chord tones, G, B, and D, are the most important. And then some clean notes that add in there would be the 6 and the 2. Those are easy to add without conflicting with the wave. So that's how these songs are born. You see a whole bunch of pentatonic, and for color and for passing tones, we will touch more into that key signature of G again. But when these songs are coming naturally out of our voices or our instruments, very often they're focusing very much on the pentatonic. So here we see again, we're starting on the 5th under the root. So we've got the 5, the D, up to the root. We've seen that in many songs, and the one I keep pointing out is Amazing Grace, because it's in this book. Up to the B, so just like Amazing Grace, we've done the 3 chord tones. 5, root, 3. Walks back down, passing tone through the A to another chord tone. That passing tone is still a pentatonic note, and we just use it between the chord tones, the B and the G. The next one is a neighbor tone. We've landed on the G. We lean up to the A and back. The E note there is another pentatonic note. It's the 6 in the pentatonic scale. And when we hit it, it identifies the C chord. So when the voice sings that and the G note, even without a guitar or another instrument, you're going to hear the formation of the subdominant chord. I have no really good excuse for that D note hanging out there in the next bar. We see the D and G again. It looks like the beginning where we're on a G chord. So to me, it looks like it's anticipating the G chord. We've dropped from a G down its 5th, back up to the G note. But every transcription I've seen still has the C chord here. So that's a non-chord tone on the C. We're leaping to it and away from it. That's a little bit difficult, and I think we're just really anticipating the G chord already. That's kind of irrelevant, but just interesting to me. So there we have the G chord outlined again. The D, G, and B, even though the D and G were over the C chord technically. G and B again, chord tones, root and 3rd. Up to the 5th, the chord tone again, and passing through the C. So there's our first instance of one of the notes from the diatonic scale that's not in pentatonic. It's a really good place for it too. The C is half a step away from the B The B is a very strong note in the G chord, so that half step just resolves you down onto the B. Here's the D, C falling down half a step to the B, to another pentatonic note. This is the 2 in this scale, and it defines the fact that we're on a D chord, the dominant chord. Back up to the root of the D chord. The C again, it's not pentatonic. It's the 7 in this D though, so it's a scale tone in the key signature of G. It's a chord tone on the D7, and it's a passing tone between the D and the C to the B note of the G chord. Passing tone again, we continue walking, B, A, G. Passing tone on A again as we walk back up. Here's that appoggiatura we talked about. We leap above the C note that we're walking toward, so we go G, A, B, C, but we overshoot it. G, A, B, D, which is a note from G, so it's almost like a little bit of a sus. And then that falls down that step to the chord tone. So that's an appoggiatura. I also wrote there that it's a surround note. We're looking for the C note, and we've surrounded it with these double neighbor tones, a B from underneath, a D from above. So we go around that note, B, D, C, to enclose it, also called an enclosure. I haven't talked about these. This one's close, so I'll point it out. There's the hat, the half rest, 2 beats, and we're on a C chord. We're down on the E note of the C chord, dropping us down to the root of the D7 chord. Here's our other non-pentatonic note. It's the leading tone from the key signature, the F sharp, but it is a chord tone in D. Pass through the G note, kind of a sus on D maybe, to the A note, jump up above the A with the neighbor tone, back to the A, as we scale walk our way down to G. So our target there was G. We've got this long enclosure. We've got an F sharp and an A of the D chord, resolving you onto the G over time. We walk to the A, F sharp still in our ear. You should have the G, but they delayed a little bit. F sharp, G, A, B, A, G. This stuff is all very interesting to me. It's really useful if you can learn to hear the ideas, and then you can start to apply them either in your own writing or in your own solos. When you know that we're going to feature chord tones, we're going to feature pentatonic, every step out adds some layer of color, and then there are ways that will resolve them. Usually you're just going to do that by ear. I'm certain a composition like this was never written down at first. It was just sung possibly by people on horseback without instruments, just singing the tune. And our ears will actually lead us to write pentatonic and diatonic songs that move around real chord progressions. So although you can substitute and you can reharmonize putting in your own chords, making some of my analysis irrelevant, if we put in a different chord substitution, then what I've just said were chord tones and passing tones wouldn't apply in that same way any longer. But our voices and our ears are actually outlining these chords, and that's why they get chosen. You can change them if you like for color and flavor, but this is the natural way to harmonize it. One last thing would be our 2 pickup notes here. We've got this last bar well written. We see the 2 beats in the last bar, beats 1 and 2, leaving beats 3 and 4 for someplace. They're here at the pickup. So we get 3, 4, half note for 2 beats, work our way all the way here, E on the beat 1, G on beat 2, it's a dotted half note for 3 beats, so it fills the rest of the bar, beats 2, 3, and 4, and then a half rest for 2 beats, a half rest for 2 beats, and a half rest for 2 beats. Rhythmically, one of the things we've talked about is how whatever happens in your pickup very often is carried over and becomes the theme of the song. So the basic phrasing of this song would be to hear the downbeat 1 and 2 and sing on 3 and 4. 1, 2. 3, 4, 1, 2. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Again, this is something you would work out a little bit at a time. First, do your reading, name all the notes, then practice a couple of bars. Every bar that's difficult at all for you, play over and over again. What you really want to do is repair any area you find that's difficult, even if it's walking down to this E note. Practice that lick a few times. I can't imagine that's difficult for you at this point with all the D, E, G, A, G, E, D that we've done, focusing on the O2, O2, 2, O2, O of the pentatonic in G. But with that as an example, whatever gives you any difficulty, perhaps this F sharp as we pass through it, make sure you practice it several times. Here it is. I'll try to go slowly enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. E to G. 3, 4. Rest. D, G. A note on the D7 chord. 3, 4. Rest. A little bit quicker here. 1, 2. I forgot to mention one thing. I don't always pick it up, but that G7 chord there is a chord that's out of key. This used to trouble me. If you see your G chord, we know that Fs are sharp. G, A, B, C, D, E. F sharp is the 7. So you may say, well, shouldn't a G7 have an F sharp then? But this is the key of G major. F sharp is the major 7. And the G chord with an F sharp is called the G major 7. If we lower that F sharp to an F, we call it the flat or minor 7 on the G chord, and it gives you the G dominant 7 chord. G dominant 7 with an F natural, you'll remember, is from the key of C. C has F naturals when G has F sharps. So this is a borrowed chord from the key of C. Very popular in folk music, hymnal music, jazz, blues, to allow you to hear this G chord leading you down to the 4 chord. It sounds to me like an organ. It's out of key. It's the dominant chord from the key of C. In this key where it doesn't belong, it's called the secondary dominant. It's the 5 chord with the 7 on it from the key of C leading to a C chord. I'm going to play this one more time here with my pick instead of fingerstyle and see how that sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4.